You are now listening to Vigilantes Radio, presented by the Only One Media Group. This is the people's choice for quality interviews, celebrities, and special guests. Hosted by Demetrius Dinny Reynolds. Call in to join the mix at 701-801-9813. For the complete archive of episodes, visit onlyonemediagroup.com and be sure to like us on Facebook at Vigilantes Radio. We welcome all. Enjoy the show. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host, Demetrius Houdini Black Reynolds. Enjoy the show.
Yo, how's it going? Alright, so there's a little over 12,000 of you guys on the line this morning. That is super awesome. So if you are not completely satisfied with what's normal in your life, why don't you create a new normal? I mean, people are creating new trends every single day. So make a change for the better and commit to keep that change going. It's not enough to merely try something new for a while. Of course not, because you'll always feel like you can easily abandon it. Count the times I haven't done that. When you make a positive change, though, make it real, make it authentic, lasting change. Integrate it into who you are and how you live. Let your investment in self-improvement be more than just a whim. Don't provide a way to back out. That's super easy. Driven by your dreams, your desires, your frustrations and experience, wisdom and love, create a new normal. I know that you can do it, man. You're like super brilliant. I know this. Trust Dini, okay? Make it beautiful, make it challenging, make it compelling, and make it stick, because you deserve your own highest level of commitment. And take it from me, guys, settle for nothing less. Why would you want to do anything else? All right.
You're live in the mix. Let's get this started.
Yo, it feels so good to be back with you guys once again. So one time for my people who are indigos and starseeds, and 2 times for my people who are vegans. We are averaging over 34,000 plus listeners, and we've been at this for 3 solid years. I appreciate all you guys who've been rocking with the kid on this journey, and we're still growing, baby. It is all because of you, most definitely. We are the people who have dedicated their lives to music, spirituality, business, literature, art, movies, and research in every aspect. And we want to allow you an opportunity to tell your story. Man, we've had celebrities on the show, from Grammy Award-winning artists, nominees, to actors, comedians, CEOs, technology geniuses, visual artists, from authors to professors and aliens. Or people who think they're aliens. It doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. Come on our show and talk to me. So check it out. To book an interview or just to share a real cool story, email me at vradio@onlyonemediagroup.com. I'm passionate about what I do, just as passionate about what you do, and together, yes, together, we can get your voice heard by the people who should hear it. So let's create something incredible. And with that, hello out there, and welcome to another episode of our podcast, Vigilantes Radio. Thank you again, as always, for tuning in and being a part of our audience family. You know the number to dial. It's 701-801-9813 to connect with us or our guests, or you can hop in the mix directly from my website, which is onlyonemediagroup.com. Scroll over to the Vigilantes Radio tab and slap that go live button, and you'll be right here live in the mix with all of us or in the chat room. So feel free to shoot over some questions to ask our guests while they are here. And as always, all episodes are available for free download. You can grab that from Spreaker.com/only1media group, iTunes, YouTube, the app called Podcast Addict, or over at our website. And that goes for every single episode that we've ever aired.
Well, wow. This morning's episode is the Dan Karlin Interview, and I'm definitely your host, dini-mussolini. And of course, I don't want to keep any of you guys waiting any longer, so let's go ahead and dive deep into this interview because there's so many of you guys on the line this morning, and it's not for Dini. No, it has to be for Dan, of course. So I guess we should kick this thing off, right? Anyways, you guys know that we are the people who have dedicated their mornings, that's new, weekdays, nights to music, books, movies, news, business ventures, and conspiracies, and talk in every aspect. From our incredible writing and promotion here on our new Facebook page, you can find that over at Vigilantes Radio. Be sure to follow, follow us Twitter. Yeah. Okay, yeah. To our interviews and music shows on this podcast, or our spiritual and intuitive talk on skeptics, or our brand new show called Hated It, where Mike and I review movies of all kinds and do voiceover comedy. How cool is that? Very cool. We spend each and every day giving our maximum effort to create a vibrant, exciting, indie, and professional community for all creative minds that coexist on this beautiful artistic world. Well, our special guest today is the host of sool-media. I like saying that, sool, yeah, very cool. You have to say that with coffee in your hand. Sool-media, Dan Karlin. All right, so let's go ahead and bring the man of the hour on. Dan Karlin, you are now live in the mix with us. How is it going and how are you feeling?
I am doing wonderful, Demetrius. How are you? Thank you for having me on.
Doing great, man. Trying to get used to this whole morning show thing. You're the first.
Yeah. You were never a morning person. Back in the day when we did stuff together, it was like 10 at night Central Time to midnight.
Yep.
That definitely seems more natural for you.
It is, man, because I have 10 to 12 hours to be alive before the show, and it's like, okay, straight out of the bed, let's go live, you know.
I know, it's like, well, that's why God invented coffee, right?
Yes, indeed. And donuts.
And donuts. You gotta have your donuts.
And, all right, man, shall we kick this off?
Let's do this thing, sir.
All right. So, as far as I can tell, Dan, you're somewhat known for your sense of humor within life. Tell us a little bit about that.
I mean, humor is very much my coping mechanism. It's just through all walks of life, not just, social media or the radio. It's the way I see things. Nothing is that bad if you can joke about it. So I try to find some way to do so if I feel like a situation is getting too heavy.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Go ahead.
Go on. Sorry.
You're good.
Go ahead.
No, it's just I got bullied a lot in school. I was a smaller guy. My voice didn't, start to crack and get deeper till I was 15 or 16, and it's like the end of 8 Mile, where Eminem decides to go in on himself before anyone else can go in on him. That's basically my philosophy. Joke about it before anybody else can.
Right. All right, that's cool. So I don't imagine that everybody may get your sense of humor, but how do you manage to incorporate your sometimes witty but dry humor into your show to where your special guests or even listeners can relate to what you're saying or get to what you're saying?
I fancy my podcast as being more of an everyman podcast. I try to be a more regular person. I feel like that's the platform I'm sitting on. where, I'll comment on things around me. If I don't have a lot going on, I'll just straight up say, yeah, no, this week was pretty boring. I'm sure you all can relate to that shit. I mainly just don't try to be anything that I'm not, and I try not to relate to experiences I can't actually relate to. And that's why I have a lot of people in music on, because I have a passion for music. It's why I have a lot of comedians on, because I have a passion for comedy. I go with what I know. It's like if you take any writing class whatsoever, they're going to tell you, write what you know. Don't veer off into something you know nothing about.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's very interesting, because maybe that's why I'm afraid of, interviewing comics. Because sometimes I'm not that funny, I tend to write a joke too.
The nice thing about interviewing a lot of comics is that the interview conducts itself, because they know how to riff for like 2-3 minutes at a time, and you don't end up interviewing them so much as you end up steering their tangents.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a lot of my best interviews came from comics where you were basically doing free word association with them. It's like, oh, well, what do you think about airplanes? Oh, well, airplanes such and such and such. They go on for 5 minutes, and then they mention gas stations. Okay, well, I had this thing at a gas station, and then they'll go with that. Interviewing a comic is like, it's like shooting fish in a barrel.
Definitely. So I just had Angelique Bates on the show.
From All That, right?
Yeah.
God, she was one of my favorites too. I remember she and Kenan Thompson did the Randy and Mandy sketch where they just threw chocolate on everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she's a stand-up comedian, part-time, I guess you can say. And I was so worried about, like, oh man, I can't, try to be like super funny or, try to make this interview work. But it flows so naturally. And, she was just naturally funny, and, we were just cracking up, having a great time. So I imagine your shows are, that much intense, but like 10 times better than, the kind of show that I do, because like you said,
I wouldn't say that. Please, I learned how to podcast by doing your show.
Well, we'll get into that later.
Yeah, true.
All right, so how about the serious side of Dan Karlin? Like, how do you go about, or do you go about creating the balance between like promoting awareness, providing information, and still creating something entertainment and fun to listen to?
How do I provide the balance? I think it depends on the people that I book and, the times that we're living in. Very early on in my show, I made a point of not getting politics too involved in it. I started Sool Radio about a year ago, and the election was getting underway, and I made a conscious point of, okay, everyone else is going to be posting on Facebook about this. Everyone else is going to be talking about this. I'm going to keep the show as apolitical as possible. And then I went on, like maybe 2 weeks after Election Day, after Trump won, to have Peter Sagal from NPR on my show. And, politics is his thing. It was also just an inescapable subject at the time. And one of the coolest moments I've ever had on my show was like somebody who is known for political humor being vulnerable and straight up saying, like, I don't know how to handle things right now because this is like nothing I've ever seen before. And then I managed to have an HBO writer who was working with Jon Stewart at the time on as well. And it took a natural, more political turn in a more natural way, because that seemed to be what people were into. And the last couple episodes have been not so much. I just try to take a feel for what's going on in the world, what's going on in my own life, and, throw that all in a blender.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that based off of that you may like lose audience if you don't stay up to date with like speaking on things that happen in the community?
Not necessarily. I mean, I try to speak on things that are happening locally, but I also realize my own tastes are eclectic enough, and I base my show off of that. Not everybody is going to be into every episode that I do. So I have some people who are into hip-hop who will, like, listen to me when I interview Vic Spencer, but they're not necessarily going to be around when I have, Peter Sagal or some comedian they've never heard of. It's niche to a fault. I understand that a lot of listeners aren't going to listen to every episode and aren't going to completely understand or just appreciate every episode.
Definitely. So how long are your shows? How long do they usually last?
They usually run from 30 to 45 minutes, and they honestly are put up when I have the time. I have 3 kids. I'm in school. I work 2 jobs. So I unfortunately don't get to do as many shows as I would like to do. Over the summer, I do expect to, increase the output, but I do it when I can. Interviews are about 30 minutes long. I have an opening monologue and a closing monologue. And I also have an indie spotlight feature where people submit songs and I, plug their stuff as well, just in exchange for, hey, just plug my show on your Facebook page.
Okay. So with that, are your shows scripted?
No. A lot of it is just me going into tangents. I mean, I'll have talking points with the people I'm interviewing. I'll know certain directions I want the conversation to go in. It always won't be the case. That won't always be what happens. But, I try to keep it in a natural conversation format, not unlike Mark Maron's podcast WTF, which is a huge influence, or Rude Jude's The Farilli Show, which another huge influence.
That is dope. See, that's where the talent is at, I believe. People who just can create like talking points and just fill in the blanks as they go. Me, I'm not that talkative, and so I feel the need to write like in-depth questions for the guest to be talkative, because I don't talk that much outside of podcasts, and sometimes these hour and 30-minute shows become exhausting for my voice. Is there a point?
Would you consider yourself an introvert, sir?
Oh yes, king of introverts.
Oh, beautiful. I learned what that term was off of BuzzFeed, and I feel like 90% of the population did too.
But I don't know, man. Everybody's in my city is like buzzing around, and I'm like a ghost. Like, they rarely see me out.
Yeah, I hear you.
Mm-hmm. So is there a point, like, to where you begin to feel some type of exhaustion, when you're doing these shows and, like, famous guests are there, the adrenaline is pumping?
I'm sorry?
I said, is there a point to where you feel like, you're talking too much, maybe because of the adrenaline's pumping and you have famous guests on?
I always have the fear that I'm annoying whoever I'm interviewing at the time, or that I, sound like a complete fraud, or like I'm talking about something I know nothing about. That's a constant fear with me. I always research before I interview them, but and this is just part of what pushes me to do better each time. Like, I never think it's good enough. I never think I was natural enough. I never think, I never look at an interview and be like, that was perfect. I couldn't have possibly done better. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, no, that worry's definitely crossed my mind among countless others.
Yeah. So is your show always changing?
It's always changing. It's really talent based. There's going to be a different tone based on whoever I have on. Like I've said this on my show on several times. Like, nobody's here for me. Mm-hmm. Like I'm just the hub for which the interesting people can present themselves.
I don't know, man. You know, you may be pulling them in.
I know, right?
Reeling them on in. So let's chat about your startup in general. How'd you think of your show concept, and what made you want to get into podcasting?
Listening to my favorite podcast made me want to get into podcasting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, ones I've pointed out already, the Farilli Show, WTF. You know, just listening to these normal people have extraordinary conversations and feeling like I want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, also, I guess getting into it initially, like I wanted to stick my toe in the water before I actually went and did my own thing, which is why I did Vigilantes Radio for a while. And I saw the opportunity open. I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it does, then I'll keep it going. And it, you know, it seemed to work out. I got a pretty decent response out of it.
Mm-hmm. Did you go buy a whole bunch of equipment?
I bought a $100 USB microphone. I already had a laptop. I got a copy of Audacity. I eventually later paid for a copy of Adobe Audition, and that's where I edit. And bought a $15 a month SoundCloud subscription, and you know that's really all you need, which is a blessing and a curse in and of itself, because anybody can do a podcast, but anybody can do a podcast.
Yeah. I interviewed a guy, Dusty Wright. He was like one of the first pioneers of podcasting, right before iTunes started showcasing them.
Right.
And he was going on about his startup, and he just, you know, went out and bought everything he needed, and his show changed until he got into the format where he thought it was productive. And I think that happens to a lot of us that, you know, begin podcasts. And, you know, you came on my show as part of a personality voice cast for a small time, just for observation purposes. Like you said, to get your foot in, your toe in. And you were there as the show began to change and shift into interviews only instead of like music shows or talk shows. So, and I never really gave a reason for that, but the reason were, you know, because I wanted a business, and, you know, and was always thinking about how can I turn this, you know, these head counts into like dollar counts. And I was reading and studying and noticing all the reported salaries of how much show hosts are raking in like every show, and I was like, man, I want to do this.
Oh yeah, no, it's insane with sponsorships. Like, I don't have sponsors yet. I would love to at some point. I'm horrible with the business side of things. Like, that's something I would need consulting like a motherfucker for. I'm sorry, can I curse on this?
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool. Just making sure.
Yeah, I don't curse, but my guests can.
I remember I went on an angry rant about Pitbull once on Vigilantes Radio that people seem to think was funny.
Mm-hmm. So,
fucking Pitbull.
Like, when you mix business and passion, of course, you want to do things because you want to do them, but when you start noticing how like people are taking your hobby and just making it a career, it's like, okay, maybe I'm doing this all wrong, or, you know.
And that's something I worry about is, you know, something I'm passionate about just turning into another job. That's my biggest fear. Like, I don't want to ever be at a point where I'm not doing a creative thing because I want to do it. I'm doing it because now I have to, because that's my job. And I think finding that balance is extremely important.
Definitely. But they say if you're doing what you love, you'll never work a day.
Exactly.
So, yeah, you're right, man. It's like a fine line between that, you know. And you have nothing else to fall back on but your show. You're like, okay, so now how do I break into money because I have no other job to do? This is my only job.
Exactly.
You tread that fine line between hobby and work. Because you may not feel like...
there's definitely a pressure to that too, where you could almost lose that passion because you're too worried about bringing money in and like what are people going to be into more so than what do I feel like doing.
Yeah, definitely. So I have a formula to it though. I don't have any sponsors yet. I'm very reluctant to reach out just yet. But I do make money from like the interviews.
Okay.
I invite bigger guests on to keep the audience and smaller guests to pay the bills, I guess you can say. The subscriptions.
That's a really smart format, sir. Do you pay for ad space at all?
No ad space.
There you go.
See, I haven't gotten into advertising yet. Just slow rolling it for what works. But I have found, like, this is one of my secrets. PR companies are great for providing the bigger name guest.
I do like it. I managed to get Paige Kennedy on just completely by the seat of my pants where I tweeted at him. And, I tweet at a lot of big names, and most of them ignore me. But he ended up DMing me like 5 minutes after. It's like, yo, hit this up. We'll set something up. I'm like, oh, wow, you actually noticed I exist. Thanks, Paige Kennedy.
Definitely. And I've got that from you. I was watching your Twitter feed one day, and I seen you, like, reaching out to, different people coming on your show. And I was like, hey, I never tried that. Let me try that. So I was on LinkedIn, though, trying that. And that's how I got in contact with Angelique Bates.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, you inspired me. I want to have some all that heirlooms on. Maybe Josh Server or Kel Mitchell.
Yeah, Kel, man. Kel's a pretty nice guy. He may do your show.
He's going to be in Chicago later this month to do some as part of his Orange Soda tour. So I'm going to try and bum rush him that night.
Yeah,
so results to follow, hopefully.
Yeah, man, he's a super positive guy, man. I plan on interviewing the entire cast and producers and writers.
Nice.
Yeah.
The 5 minutes guy. What's his name? Kevin?
Yeah, Kevin. 5 minutes.
God.
5 minutes.
All that was the shit back in the day.
It was. All right, so I have a question for you, though.
Go for it.
So I had to sacrifice a bit and reformat my shows to fit the mode to make money. Have you been in this dilemma, and would you ever sacrifice your audience or content for a chance to make some real cash?
At this point, I have to say yes because I have a family and a hard enough time paying the bills as it is. So it wouldn't be something I would want to do, but if we're speaking full candidness, yes, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, I do have to pay the bills, and tomorrow's another day, and I can still bootstrap my way into something I do want to do later on.
Right. Okay. Would you ever consider that as selling out?
It might be. But I mean, as a family man, that might be what I have to do. I really hope it never comes to that point, but I'll put my face on some shitty merchandise if it means a few months rent at this point. I got, as much as I want to fully claim artistic integrity, there are limits to everything. I hope it never comes to that point, though, because it would be a hard thing to do, and it would be a hell of a sacrifice to make.
Yeah, but man, I believe people really misconstrue that term, selling out. Because I view it as, like you said, you got a family to feed. I mean, you have to do what you have to do. it's selling out when you're this crusader for a certain cause, and then all of a sudden you switch sides just to make some money. To me, that is selling out.
Oh, no, I completely understand. Like, people consider selling out, like signing to a major record label. That's not selling out. That's trying to get yourself to a bigger audience. That's you trying to sustain your brand.
Definitely.
You know, people throw around the term selling out the way they throw around the term classic. Like, you don't even know what that fucking means. Sit your ass down.
Right. Man, Dan, in general, how do you go about testing out whether or not these guests are a right fit for sool-media?
I just jump right in and interview them. Fortunately for me, I haven't had an interview that I was like, this is terrible. I can't put this up.
Not one?
But not one.
Wow.
I mean, I've had some interviews where I was like, okay, this could definitely be better, where people were way too safe with their answers.
Yeah.
But, they're trying to protect their brand. You know, we're all in it for... I understand that a lot of what everybody does is based on self-interest. And if it doesn't serve you in a particular way, then you're probably not going to do whatever's on the table. And so I would like to have interviews with more provocative questions, but I understand that people aren't going to want to answer those if it possibly means helping your brand, especially for some, like, SoundCloud podcast. I get it. I may not like it, but I get it.
Yeah, and that, man, what you just said is very important. I had to sit and think about that for a very long time. And that's why my shows are scripted versus, where you just go off talking points. Because I know they do care about their brand. It's like, okay, so how can I have a guest open up and be very sincere and vulnerable to these questions, and tell the behind stories without them, kicking dirt on somebody or tarnishing their brand. And it's still a struggle for me, though. Still a struggle.
I hear you. No, and what's good content for you will ultimately not be good content for the other guy.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's a constant compromise between you and whoever you're interviewing.
Definitely. Dan, and man, I definitely want to do like TMZ, like Breakfast Club interviews with people where I just, kick dirt on them and have them defend themselves, but I don't know, man.
Yeah, the Breakfast Club is great about that. I love Charlemagne. Charlemagne is the shit.
Yeah. I mean, that's the kind of host I want to be at times, but I'm also, like, super respectful. Like, it's just not the thing to do all the time.
I don't know if I'm super respectful. I mean, I tend to have people on who I admire, so I don't feel the need to kick dirt on them. But I don't think if the opportunity presented itself that I wouldn't kick dirt on somebody I feel deserved it. Like, I'm a pretty direct person, and I feel like passive-aggressiveness is one of the worst character flaws one can have. And, I'm that way with other people, and I fault people who are not that way with me.
That brings an interesting question up. So I have a few guests that comes on every now and then that are very fake, and of course I make it a point of my show to never be judgmental.
Right.
So I don't, pull their cards. But if you had a guest that, somewhere in a conversation you begin to get offended, would you start kicking dirt on them?
I would bring it up to them. I wouldn't immediately kick dirt on them, but if I brought up something I found offensive and they were like, oh, well, go fuck yourself, then I'd probably, just as a complete defense mechanism, go in on them from there. I feel like it's, I would give them a chance to correct themselves.
On air or after the show is over?
Oh, on air.
Cool.
On air, because, confrontations are always the best content.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's a bad interview, it might make for a really good interview.
Definitely. Have you ever had a guest on that was like super dry? And because like I view like me and you as the train conductor or the conductor of the train. We direct the energy. If it's dry, we're supposed to pick it up. You know, if it's going too fast, we're supposed to slow it down. Too slow, speed it up, that kind of thing. What do you do in that kind of situation where your guest is like super dry and one-word answers, that type of thing?
I mean, it's going to end up making for a really short, really boring episode, but you keep trying to find out what they're interested in. And it's like, hey, can you elaborate on that? A lot of like, why? Explain yourself. Because why? And sometimes it works, and other times it doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah, like Busy, when we had Busy on that time, he was doing like one-word interviews in that particular month. So I was worried about, oh man, he's gonna get on here. We're gonna have all these people on. He's gonna like, yes, so and so forth. You know, that type of thing. And I was like, oh man, we gotta get him to open up. So we had to like be innovative and write questions that nobody ever asked him, and it made for a good show. But I don't know.
I remember re-listening to that a while back and thinking it was a really good interview. Plus, Busy can go on a tangent, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, it is when he does it. But there's been times, like, man, awful interviews, just awful.
I'm still in the midst of my game of Instagram DM tag with him. He hit me up maybe like 3 weeks ago. It's like, yo, when are we doing this interview? And I literally responded with, you tell me, give me a time and a place, and nothing.
Yeah.
So one day.
And just set a date for him.
All right. No, it'll happen. I'm confident. He's my white whale.
And just blow him up like the day of the interview. Just blow him up from morning to whenever it happens.
Does that work?
Yeah, it worked for me.
Shit. All right, I'll do it.
That's what I had to do.
Nice. Yeah, no, because I went through his guy August, and then I went through Steve Lobel at one point, and they're all extremely nice people. But yeah, no, it's pinning the guy down that seems to be the hard part.
Yep. August is super cool, man. We worked together on a few things.
Yeah, and I follow Steve Lobel on Instagram. That dude has the most exciting life, I swear to God.
Yeah. Bruce Willis' brother.
Yeah, like balding Italian dude. Can't argue with that. Like I want to be that cool at that age.
Yeah, every time I see Steve, I was like, oh man, he looks like Bruce Willis sometimes.
Yeah, motherfucker knows everybody.
Everybody, that is so crazy. Man.
It's like on Drake's birthday. There's a picture of him and Drake. It's like, happy birthday. I'm like, you're just stunting on someone else's birthday. Good for you. That's awesome.
Definitely.
All right. I do have to be going shortly. My daughter is putting up a bit of a fuss.
All right. You want to cut it short, or have about 3 more questions?
I got a few more minutes.
And then the hot seat.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. All right. So, what have you learned from recording your shows and being responsible for creative content that you'll be able to take with you into your next level of success, or if you were offered a job at a bigger show?
What have I learned?
Yes,
never be afraid to reach out. Never feel like you're too small to reach out to somebody who's big, because you never know. Don't have no shame. Shame is one of the worst things you can have, especially when you're at a lower level and when you want something. You know, the only way anyone's going to give you anything is you step up and take it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, be fearless. But I guess that is the moral of everything I just said, is just be fearless, because fear is only going to hold you back.
Definitely. See, man, we can't get on the lines together, man, because we always have conversations versus interviews. But that's really what your shows are like, right?
Something like that. Yeah, it's definitely more of a conversation than an interview.
Yeah. All right. So we have a voice and a platform to really say some meaningful stuff. And I really appreciate a person that truly has something to say like you do at times. But I always wonder if it's just what we write about or if it's an inspired act that comes from within, like something you have to do because you have that platform to speak from, and it shouldn't go to waste kind of thing. So what makes it important for you to include that aspect of social commentary and opinion in your content? Like you do it a lot on Facebook, but I don't know if you do it on your show.
I do it less on my show than I do on Facebook. You know, I'm of the opinion that no one is going to ever truly change anybody's mind, especially on platforms such as social media. So I'll put up the funny Trump meme, mainly because I'm friends with a lot of people who are like-minded and feel the same way as I do. I keep a point of staying off Facebook arguments because they are pointless. And I don't think anybody has ever changed anybody's mind on that platform. And I do want to start doing things on my show. And this is like one of the fear things that holds me back. I don't want to get in over my head on an issue that I know nothing about. And that's why, you know, I let the other person talk, because a lot of it is me trying to learn and take something away from it, and then being able to, I don't want to say regurgitate, but regurgitate it on the next episode or the episode after that.
Yeah.
Like, I see each episode as a learning experience, and I try to take away just as much from it as, like, the guest will.
Definitely. Good. So, man, you made it to our open floor, and I'd like to say a massive thank you, Dan, for taking, you know, the time out to answer some of my ramblings.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Definitely, man, and sharing, you know, your insight with us. So take this next moment to say anything at all that you like to mention or bring up that I didn't mention, that you wanted to talk about. All the best to you, Dan, and your show, man. I'm looking forward to more episodes.
I just want to know how you're doing. Like, how are you feeling, sir? It's been a little while since we've had a real conversation. So I will take this moment to be like, how are you?
Man, I'm feeling great, bro. Retired from corporate America back in the end of April, beginning of May. You know?
Yeah, I saw that. How's it feeling? Have you bought a bunch of boat shoes and started playing bingo?
No, just more days and time with the kids and, you know, doing family stuff, being a real person.
But no bingo on Wednesdays? I feel like you're doing retirement wrong.
I'm not that old, man. I'm not even
I know,
35.
but that's like the things that retired people. I don't know. I could never retire. Like, I'm going to be working until the day I keel over, mainly just because I need something to do every day.
Yeah. Well, podcasting and, you know, music is my thing, I guess.
There you go.
Man, it was just rough, man, like working 10 hours every day and not living, you know, so I had to make a change. So
definitely.
It is.
Well, there you go. I mean, I'm glad it's working out. Good for you, sir.
Well, this is the first month, so if it doesn't work out, I'll be calling Lil Bell for, hey.
Well, there you go.
I'll be submitting my resume, or like this one lady came to my shop. She was like, well, what you going to do now? I was like, sell drugs. It's like, okay, make the money then. It's like, what do you know about
it's
that?
like when I went to Columbia College, everyone would, you know, ask everybody, all the students, you know, what are you going to do after college? Which is such like a myopic and patronizing question, because nobody knows the answer to that, and you know you don't know the answer to that. So when people ask me, what are you doing after college? I just go, oh, I'm going to take up smoking, maybe a meth habit. You know?
I could imagine the looks they give you.
Yeah, you know, I at least had people remember me and know not to ask me that question again.
Mm-hmm. Well, as we say our goodbyes, we will play the music for today. It is GNO Sound's Better Days. All right, man,
thank you so much for having me on, sir.
No problem. Before we go, let everybody know where they can connect with you at and tune into your show. That's important.
You can tune in to Sool Radio on SoundCloud. That is SOOL Radio, all one word. You can also find it on sool-media.com. You can also find it on iTunes, any RSS feed podcast application. It's pretty easy to find. Hit a brother up. Hit a cracker up.
Dope, dope, dope. All right, Dan the man. Catch you later, bro. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
This right here is for my people, all of my people, wherever you at. This was for you. I want you to lay back and vibe out to this. Because this right here, this that music that's gonna get your mind right. Heard?
This one is for my people. Niggas don't even know how much I really love you. No one in this world is equal. Faking, thinking they persuasive. Talking about take it or leave it. Easy, I think that I leave it. Even if it means we gon' be beefing for any reason. I'm never committing treason against the camp. Seasoned veteran, he's a better man. Understand that we can never let any man divide the design of the divine when she's fulfilling plans. Seldom do they measure up to us, that's the difference. We on a bigger scale. If it's real, listen here, shit is raw. Put us up on a fish scale with some kilograms. My love is unconditional, but it's getting cold when it comes to doing the math, and I don't see no reciprocals. It's difficult, so I'm sitting alone, thinking about how I was raised and how I have grown, and how some of my people changed out on this road when we vowed to never be torn. We could have had everything we ever dreamed of when we teamed up, but seems it was never enough. We could have had everything we ever dreamed of when we teamed up, but seems it was never enough. Now it's gone.
Thank you so much for taking out this time to think about the price we pay each day while we out here trying to find any way, every way to make it out here every day. Many get lost on this road from being led astray, but I see better days ahead. Yeah, I see better days.
We're gonna send this one out to all the children of the world in the eyes of the Most High.
Yeah, I see better days.
Sending this one out to all the children in my town and my people in Chi-Town. It's a state of emergency cause it hurts me whenever I see we out here being shot down. How many mothers gonna have to lose their sons? How many brothers gonna have to be put under? How many innocent little children have to get caught up in a mix just cause somebody tripped? If it's over hoes, why everybody poke? And if it's over though, why everybody broke? I bet you that we deserve better, yeah, due to vendettas we settle for less. The message has never been clearer, we must suffer from some type of fear coming together. Therefore, since you didn't want to listen, they building more prisons, and guess what? They filling up with niggas. Still, what's the fucking difference if you're reckless out here acting ignorant? What could have happened if you would have practiced wisdom, realizing only when it's too late after the system tricks them to throw their life away? Is it right? No way. It's sickening thinking how what a price to pay. Our mission is really for a brighter day when the sky is gray that we facing and waiting for the sun just to shine our way.
Thank you so much for taking out this time to think about the price we pay each day while we out here trying to find any way, every way to make it out here every day. Many get lost on this road from being led astray, but I see better days ahead. Yeah, I see better days. Boy, I see better days. Yeah, I see better days.
Better days. That's all I see. That's all you should see. You know? Ain't nothing to look down for. Look within yourself. That's where you're gonna find your greatest potential. Between that and the Most Highs, nothing can stop us. It's been a long time that we've been striving, overcoming obstacles and hurdles. Still ain't stop us. Still here, still standing. So that tells it all. So my people are from New Orleans to Chi-Town and all the way around. Hold it down.
You're listening to the music of Gigano Sounds, K-Bay, Black Pearl, Dame Energies with their song, Better Days. I got a question that I received. Where do I belong? Well, where you belong is, this is where you are. This is where you belong. And now when you can make life richer, more fulfilling than ever before, shift your awareness away from all the superficial trivia and into the matters of your heart. Feel the abundance of which you're already right now immersed in. What your spirit longs for is here for you to claim. In this moment is everything in the universe and all the goodness that matters to you and only you. Open yourself lovingly to all that you have. Give yourself fully to all that you can do now, right here. Blissfully ignore the howling complaints of ego. Got to ignore the ego. You have so many more meaningful things to tend to. Whatever else you have or what you don't have, one thing you do have is this moment. And within it is every possibility. Take it from Dini. Thank you, my Vigilantes family, as always, for checking out my podcast over here at Vigilantes Radio. All episodes are available for free download, and you can grab it from either Spreaker.com/Only1Media Group, iTunes, YouTube, the app called Podcast Addict, or our website, which is onlyonemediagroup.com, and that goes for every single show that we've ever aired. If you'd like to request music or send something for us to play, email it to vradio@onlyonemediagroup.com. Here my disclaimer: we are genre free, we do not judge, and we absolutely do not base our opinions on hearsay but facts alone. And actually, you can scratch all of that because all of my opinions are always right. That's the bottom line. This is my show, something you gotta deal with. Nah, just kidding. On behalf of myself, dini-mussolini, I appreciate you guys for tuning in either afterwards or live with us. Spread the word because sharing is caring. And also special thanks to our guests for joining us. We stepped up our game just for you guys and our guests to make sure you have the best experience here on our show. Be sure to connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Tumblr. We are all over. Just connect with us and we do follow back. Okay, well, just remember to be yourself and be absolutely freaking great at just doing that. Peace.
You are now listening to Vigilantes Radio, the people's choice for quality interviews, art, music, and hot topics. Hosted by Demetrius Houdini Black Reynolds of the duo No Longer the Hero. All episodes of this podcast are available for free download at www.onlyonemediagroup.com. This is a Seventh Sign Regime Rebirth Worldwide Syndicate exclusive.